Okay, starting the build for the LM386 kit. First component that we're going to put in is going to be a resistor. So we'll just fold that one over now. It's this one here. It's marked as a 4K7. Put this in the R2 position. Okay, as that goes in, just try and make sure it's fairly clear there. There we go. Slightly tease those legs out. I just have to tighten up my connector here. There we go. Okay, so place the board there. Then bring the soldering iron in. Let's get the first connections underway. There we go. Just snipping the ends off here. Excellent. Right, next component that we're going to fit is going to be the variable resistor. This is going to control the actual volume. Just check the pins are straight before we put this in. This goes on over the top of the last thing we've just popped in there. And then we'll just do exactly the same. Turn the board over, trying to make sure that it doesn't hopefully fall out when we turn it over there. It may need a little bit of support. There we are. Again. Go. It's a little bit fiddly with the pins close to the other pins, but we're away there. That's the variable resistor in place. Looks about right, probably slightly proud, but that's okay. Next component that we're going to fit is going to be the LM386 IC socket holder. So we'll place that one there. It's quite tight between that and the other component. I hope you can see that on the video. So that one goes there. Make sure all the components are straight with regards to the legs. Just making sure that they're okay there. And also, if it helps, you can very slightly, see if we can just, there we go. Make sure that the legs there are in place. Obviously, poke it through. We're going to have to use a clip. Go. It's possibly not the neatest of soldering, but I believe the connections are good. Just double check, have a look. Then we've got one leg there that could probably do with retouching, which is that one. So I'm just going to quickly go over that with the soldering iron just to make sure that it's a good connection. Soldering on a quick wipe. Right, okay. So I think that's okay. It doesn't look like that's taken, so I'm just going to check and see if there's any more that we can just pop on there. I'm not sure if that... Right, we'll go back and troubleshoot that maybe in a little bit just to check the details. Right, so we now have the LM386 chip mount on there, that's on the board. The next component that we're going to add is going to be some of the ceramic capacitors. These are labelled as 104. We'll pop those in there. Okay, same thing, just bend the legs out as they go in. Make sure they're fairly straight. Excellent. One, two. Okay. Great. Okay. So that's the one of the ceramic capacitors in there. What we'll probably do now is also put the other ceramic capacitor in, which is labelled C8, which just goes over here. Again, this is the same, it's a 104. Put that in on the board. There we go. Okay, so that's the ceramic capacitor 104 in there, that's great. The next thing that we're going to pop in is going to be some of the larger capacitors that we have here. And for these ones you have to be quite careful because they are voltage sensitive with regards to which way the voltage has to be applied. So if you see here there's a grey stripe, that is the negative side, and that matches this side, and that goes on there. So hopefully, if you're picking this up on the video, you will see that the first large capacitor, this one here, goes in the corner. It's 1000 UF. So we'll place that in, and then we'll get that one soldered in. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Now we've got the next capacitor that we're going to pop in. That's slightly smaller in the fact that it's a 100 UF. Same rules apply. There is a negative stripe down there, and that must match on the grey side of this. So we have this. Hopefully this will go in. Ooh. Sometimes the legs need a little bit of persuasion, and once they're in, fold them out, obviously so that it holds the component in where you're soldering it. There we go. There we are. Let's get those two off. Okay, so we have that one in. One more capacitor to go here, and as with the last types of these capacitors, it's a voltage sensitive. This one again has the stripe down it for the negative side, which indicates where it needs to be. If we see here, this one's a 10. I'm not sure if the camera's picking up. It's 10. Same rules apply. Negative side has to go on this side here. And squeeze it in. It's a bit of a tight fit. That goes just in there. Okay, perfect. Okay, just bend those legs out. There we go. both of those in. There we go. Okay, so we've now got all of our larger capacitors in, both of the ceramic capacitors there, which are the 104s, they're in. So probably the next thing to do is to make sure you install the LM386 chip. If you look closely at the chip, I hope you can see this, there's a slight what looks like a half circle or half moon on the chip. That has to go in here. Now, as you might be able to see, the chip is, the legs actually aren't straight on this chip. So it's quite important that you gently, and I mean very gently, just tease the legs into the right place. All of the legs will need to connect, so we don't need any of the legs being bent. We just need all of them to snugly fit into the chip holder, which we soldered in at the beginning. We can try and get that to pop in. It may be a bit fiddly, it may take a bit of time. And let me just see if I can get this to go in. How are we looking? If we can see there. Still very slightly, I think. There we are. Just make sure that's snug down both sides. Hope you can see that there. So we have the LM386 chip mounted, and now we move on to the next part of the board. So what we have now is we have a number of different things. We have the audio input side, we also have the voltage input sides as well as an LED. The one component we've got left is a resistor, so I'll just quickly put that resistor in. This is labelled as 4R7. I'll just quickly pop that in there. See, as you can see, this is slightly different than the other types of resistors in the way that it's mounted. Hopefully this will pop in. I have cheated slightly in this, in the fact that this is actually the right size, but the same things apply with regards to bending over the components. There we go. A little bit too much solder on that one, so I think we can cut that back just a little bit. There we go. Excellent. And on this leg here. That's great. Okay. So we now have the last resistor, one last resistor to put in, and that is located beside the LED, which is at the top here, and I think I'll pop that one in now. That one is labelled as a 4K7. So again, we'll just bend the legs over, place this in. This is the value there, see if we can see how we're looking. There we are. Okay. Looks like it's in, and it's fairly tight to the board. Excellent. Bend the legs out, place it into the holder, and we'll solder that up. Excellent. It's a little bit difficult to see with the camera that I'm using because it's a bit overhead. There we go again. We'll cut that back there. This leg here. Hopefully you can see that. Might not possibly be the neatest soldering anyone's ever seen before, but certainly it's him. Right, so the next thing we're going to put in is going to be the audio side, which is the pink socket, which is the 3.5mm mono jack. Again, that should hopefully slot in here, all things being well. There we go. Right, excellent, that's stayed in. They can be a bit fiddly to stay in some of these components, so just try and make sure that if you can, maybe just slightly bend one of the legs forward once it's in position, just to hold it there in the right place. And then just get the soldering iron here and solder up the legs that are connected. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we now have, if we start put the board back the way it was meant to be rotated, we'll now have the audio input side in. We also have the last part that we're going to put in, or the last component should I say, which is the LED, which you see here. And with an LED, the actual the key thing here is that LEDs are sided, unlike bulbs, with regards to polarity. The longest leg on the LED is the positive, and as we see here, the positive is labelled. So hopefully if we just place the LED through here with a bit of assistance, just make sure that that goes in cleanly, which I believe it has. So there we are, it's the LED, and then we'll turn that over, solder that component in. Okay. Snip the legs off. There we go. So there we are, we have the main part of the board in. The last thing we need to mount as such is going to be some of our smaller connectors. These do a number of different jobs. What I'm using here to separate these is just a pair of snips. So I'm just going in, it's every two we need a new one, so we'll just get these there. Try and be fairly careful as they can ping off, so that's why I did that inside my hand, otherwise you might be chasing around over the room. So the first one we're putting in here is going to be for this side, which is on the input side for the, if you don't wish to use headphones but you wish to use the fixed input. They should just, hopefully, if you've got a good grasp on this, should just slot in. There we go. Nope. Okay. What I'll do is I will then insert them this way to this one here, where I've got a better range, hopefully. They'll stay in. I'll just gently bend the pins over, hopefully not being careful not to damage the board in this case. And then place that in there. Just grab the soldering iron. Oops, it's just dropped out. Okay. Let's have another try, see if we can use maybe the crocodile clip to help support it when it goes in. Let's try this. That's one in. Okay, we'll just reposition the board there. So we can get onto the other side to get the other pin into the clean this soldering iron up here. Right, so that's that pin in. Excellent, that's really good. We've also got some more pins over this side that we need to pop in. This one's for the speaker. Let's try and see, yep, we've got that one in. That's really good. So that's two. Okay, that's excellent. So we'll see if we'll try that last pin, see if we can get it in this time. Second try, otherwise we need to grab a pair of pliers just to position this in. Probably should have done this before I put the 3.5mm jack in there. There we go, looks like it's in now. Okay, looks good. Whoops, it's just dropped out. So I think I'll probably need to grab a pair of pliers for that one. One last go. So you've got fiddly. There we go. Excellent. Sure we can maybe fan those. So just bend the legs around either side there, just to hold it in while I solder. You've got to be really careful you don't damage the board if you do that. If you get stuck, obviously time is always on your side if you're prepared to take as much time as you can. Right, so we now have one item left, which is this one here, which is the power socket. Hopefully now that should just slot in there, which it has done pretty cleanly, I think. Yep, that looks pretty good. And then the next job is going to be to solder up these three legs. So I just need to quite a big surface location, so you may need to use a larger amount of solder than you probably have with some of the other components. Obviously not looking to flood the area, but at the same time looking to make a good contact. There we go. Okay, so hopefully now, as long as none of the components fail, this is what your finished board should look like. Okay.